So we can move on and go and start looking at our transparent move technology and the access anywhere. So the analytics gave you that picture. It showed you what it is that your data looks like and gives you insights and what ifs. Well, how do I want to handle my data, and how can I save costs with my data by sending it to a cheaper secondary storage. So we'll say that we'll put that secondary storage over here. This is the customer's cloud. We don't manage the targets, or we don't own the targets. We just manage what we put on the targets. We call these targets. So this would be an object store target in the cloud. You can have an object store target on-prem. You can have a tape on-prem or in the cloud, as long as it has a NAS head in front of it that lets us write as a file system, and then they go ahead and send the things to tape. Or just another NAS. So what we do when you decide that you are interested in running this plan, you like the what-if scenario, you want to run the plan, the director then tells the observers, okay, we're going to be archiving data. We're going to be moving data off the sources into the cloud. In this case, we'll just go to this cloud bucket. So the observer essentially does another analysis. But instead of just getting the picture of what does this file look like, it looks at the observation and says, does it comply with the plan policy that has been asked for? Is it old enough? Is it large enough? Does it not meet any of the exclusions of data that you don't want to move off of the source? And then when it finds a file that matches, it moves it to the target, to the cloud. And it moves it natively. So the file data, full file data that you see on the premises, on the source filer, is the full file data you see in the cloud. So this differs from other solutions that move data as blocks, or that say, I want to take the coldest blocks and send them up there, things inside the vendor's filers.
Is it self-describing? I mean, do you also move all the directory position as a tag or something, so that I have a mechanism to rebuild my system if something goes really, really wrong?
So it is natively, it is fully maps to the directories that you see on the premises. And I will, in a moment, I will tell you just how it is that we make it. So it looks not just like an object on the target, but it looks like actually an extension of the file on the source, or an extension of the source itself.
So, but the prefix sort of rule. But the prefix on the target are exactly like your directory path.
It matches
the directory. The metadata, like last user, last touch date, creation date, all that stuff, is that being copied as well, or is
that's been persisted, and I think Mike will talk about where
so
it's being,
I'll go into that
stored.
right now then.
Sorry, one more question. So I can apply any rule. I mean, everything that is created during the day could be moved during the night.
Yeah, you can say, hey, move everything basically as well, or
So
move 1 month old. You can set the policy the way you want to set the policy based upon access time, based upon modified time. You can set the policies you want.
So it's not moved.
Because it's a S3, can I run a serverless function on everything I push into the cloud?
And that's how customers are using it. I think you bring the question,
So
that
GDPR kind of compliance thing. I mean, I want to check if somebody's storing personal data.
Yeah, we have customers who have, one customer who have actually moved about multi-petabytes of data in AWS, and they access that data directly in AWS, because that's a genomics company, for running their analysis if they want to run again, and they can access the data in the cloud now. Because it's natively stored, we are not chunking at all. We are not, doing we're not mangling the data at all. We don't want to be the hostage of your data.
I have to make a copy if I make changes, of course, because
yeah,
you can delete something on the cloud.
It's a read only kind of. We recommend access to it, but if you want to, modify it, it's fine. But generally, you would kind of make a copy of the data and modify it.
Very good.
So as Mohit was saying, the file goes up there entirely intact. It's in the native format of the object store so that it can be accessed in the object store. And whereas other archive solutions will just disappear that file from the source file or from the source share, we leave behind a Komprise dynamic link. And that dynamic link refers to a file system exposed by the observers, by the grid of observers. And that file system is called KCFS, which Komprise Cloud File System. And so the dynamic link points to, or refers to an address that is hosted by the grid of observers, the access address, and that is served by KCFS. So in effect, what this means is that when a client comes in, some client user comes in and accesses the file, they are redirected to the access address that is hosted by Komprise, which then fetches the data back from the secondary storage from the target, and then brings that data back to the user. Importantly, the metadata of the original source share and that file on the source share and its entire directories and all the ACLs, everything like that, is also stored in the cloud and is recognized by KCFS. So that the cloud essentially hosts an extension of the source share. It's as though your source share just got bigger. The hot data stays on the source share. We don't get in front of the hot data. Anytime you access data that has been sitting there, let's say your plan was for a year, that hasn't been accessed in the last year, you get straight to the file. Your $100,000 filers are not being wasted by having something that we do in front of it. You go straight to those files directly. But when you hit something that has not been accessed in a while, then you redirect to KCFS to Komprise, and then Komprise brings back that data. And it just brings it to the client.
You've got the option then to determine whether you choose to retrieve that file in its entirety back to its original location or leave it where it is, because it might well be that's a one-off access and you don't want to move it back, or it might be quite frequent. So you could set a slider that says how often you do that.
Yes.
And go ahead.
There is an access policy. How many accesses happened in how many days? And if multiple accesses happen in a day, we count that as one. So if a couple days go by and this has been accessed a few times, whatever your policy is, that is when we actually bring the file back and put it back there. So it's not like others. If for instance, this was sent up as blocks, it gets rehydrated when it's accessed.
Are we going to look at the policy management in the demo, or?
Sure, I can show you. It's something.
I guess you've got another benefit there as well, in that you could track who's doing that. So you could actually see which users are the ones that are actively retrieving or accessing inactive files, to see whether that's a backup software issue or whether it's a ransomware issue or something else that's coming in doing stuff.
Somebody quitting and
Yes, it's
downloading a bunch of data. Yeah.
good, quitting, accessing old data to delete it.
How does backup or something like that work in your environment? These files effectively are not, they still exist?
That is exactly the next thing I was going to draw. So essentially, we're extending the source share in the target. So it's effectively drawing down the source share. We're reducing the space on the source share as we place it on the target. But not only that, because we're reducing the space on the source share, we're reducing the space that needs to be backed up. So let's say this is your backup system.
Yeah, but the metadata about the file and all that stuff still sort of exists, just redirected, right?
The metadata of the file, whatever we can put on the link that we leave behind, we put there, and that's here. But the metadata of the actual file from the source actually resides in the target.
Yeah, and those links that we created are getting backed up, right? So
the links are being backed up.
They are being backed up.
The files are not being backed up.
Exactly. The files are already in there, and they are in a durable storage, in AWS or other object stores, right? So the links actually are being backed up, and that's a big savings for the customer, right? Generally, customers have not one copy of their data, they have multiple copies of their data, right? And then once we go here, we reduce their their backup footprint, their DR copy significantly. And that's a big part of the cost savings that they get, and the backup window goes faster as well because there's less data they have to copy. And that's why we have a use case where we have a customer actually wanted to, they were looking at Komprise, but they're looking for another kind of backup appliance, and they use Komprise first to archive and then backup, and they'd reduce their backup appliance significantly how much they needed, because they're expensive, right? They're very expensive, these backup appliances.
Still, data is data. You can move from here to here. You gotta.
But for the backup lines, you have the storage, you have the backup license cost. That's also based upon how much you're backing up, and those are the costly ones, right? And this you go in a cheaper storage right away, right? And AWS is way cheaper than any other backup vendor will charge you to store
And durable.
license.
You do not need to back that up. It is trusted to be durable.
Yeah, in addition, a lot of the modern backup solutions out there have huge amounts of SSD, so they can ingest massive amounts of data to stay within backup windows, and that's not cheap. Have you had any compatibility issues with those stubs or those dynamic links?
So most of the vendors, I think they support, like, even legacy ones like Veritas and Commvault, they support. Even the modern ones, we've worked with them, and they also support because they are, just so that everyone knows, it's a standard file system construct. What we are doing is symbolic links, right? So and symbolic links is not just we create, customers create symbolic links too, and they need to be backed up. Right? So it's not something we have created something proprietary that these vendors have to support. It's a standard file system construct.
You mentioned the fact that you could swap out the vendor X to vendor Y file system services themselves without having to rehydrate all the data?
Yep.
How does that work? Because you just copy the links?
Yeah, let's say that you wanted to retire this filer that has this share with links to something that you have archived. Then if you want to migrate it to another share, we are doing that. You ask us to do it. It's a service that Komprise provides, migrating one source share to another. And if we know that we've put links on there, we actually translate the links to whatever they should be on.
Oh, so you're doing the migration from an active file share to another active file share.
So we have a full-fledged migration product built in, and that's also part of the full product license you get, where you can migrate the data from one file server to another file server as well.
You may have already answered this. So if I have a business requirement to have auditing on the files to see who's accessed it, you guys can log that too, or?
Not who accessed it, when was it last accessed. We are not auditing every single access coming on the file system. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just go back and clarify that migration piece again? Because it seems to me that if you've got the ability to modify the links, you could write something that built a new file system to the original content, and then effectively migrate the content in the background and flip all the data over at the last moment, and allow people to migrate stuff without having to take down access to the actual data, which would be much better than traditional sort of migration projects that need you to shut down a solution.
So we make migration faster. There is still a small amount of window because we are still, they're hot data.
Open files and things would be
they're hot data, and that's how we have a large customers who did a big multi-petabytes kind of cut over within a weekend, basically.
So
right.
have you got patents on the redirect read functionality?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Have you got patents on the?
Yeah, we have the patent on the transparent move technology. That's patented.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that you don't delete the data that's been archived. So how does the customer know to go out and delete that data, or what does he have to do to clean up or reclaim the space on the file share?
If for the confined capability?
Well, no, for just archiving,
For archiving, we do delete the file from the source.
Oh, so you delete it. I'm sorry, I must.
And then we put the link there, right? So we're replacing it with the Komprise link there.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you
they're
actually mean getting rid of it totally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
no,
we also have move without links. So they want to just wipe it off and don't use, they don't want to use transparent move. They just want to get it off their file system completely. No links. So users they don't want users to access it. The different use cases, right? The use cases, they want to keep it for a few more years and I'll wipe it off, right? But that's also there, you can do it within the product.
So wait, the wipe it off, that goes into a trash folder?
Yeah, so we never delete the data, right? So they will go ahead and delete it, yeah.
So the next aspect of this, so the reason it's called transparent is because the user can access it on the source share. It looks like an extension of the source file. The users and applications that are going after the source shares see the file there as far as they're concerned. But this also gives us an access anywhere aspect because it is sitting here. The files that we have archived for you are sitting there as a live archive in the cloud, in the target destination that you had. And so companies can create other apps that can then go at that live archive and can see the files there as they are native in that object store in this case. And this is very, very powerful. Essentially, it's a data lake of your coldest data. And as the data keeps growing there, the data lake is still there. It's not locked up. Kumar mentioned other systems that will archive things to cloud stores will send them as blocks. And essentially, when you throw them up there as blocks, you've lost them. You can only access them from the source. But here, you still have them. You can access all of your files wherever they are, and the deep analytics also follows those files there so that you can find those files using the deep analytics as well.
So frame of reference, what's your largest customer size management?
It's close to 100 petabytes.
Huh?
Close to 100 petabytes.
That's why I was double checking.
Yeah, 100, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you see, so when you start with a new customer, okay, so they have plenty of NAS filers and everything. After a while, they could do the same with 10% of the infrastructure or something like that potentially, if you start moving everything to cheaper storage. So do you see them reducing the infrastructure, or do you see them keeping them there because?
I think both. Sometimes they have filers which are out of support. We've seen customers that like bunch of their data is out of support right now, and they need to reduce it and throw away those file servers. They're consolidating, moving from their legacy file servers. They have a new flash storage they want to migrate, but they don't want to buy the same amount of flash storage, so they're reducing their footprint as well. The other use cases is the data growth is so much, it's not about reducing the footprint, but not buying additional storage, right? So all those three things that we have seen in the customer environments.
Anyway, they are saving money.
And they're saving money because they're not buying. And I think a lot of the customers we hear, we don't have any more CapEx budget anymore. The CapEx budget is reducing. They have OpEx. They're moving to the more OpEx model, right? So they have more OpEx budget now, and they want to move it to the cloud, right? So they're not buying any more file servers anymore, and they're just maintaining the current one they have, but slowly moving their data to the cloud.
Do you have any study? Oh, sorry.
You support more than one archive target?
I'm sorry?
You support more than one archive target?
We support, yeah.
So could I have a portion of my file system go to S3, and a portion go to blob storage, and a portion go to Google Cloud Storage?
Absolutely.
Based on
your policies, based on your policies, because and sometimes customers want to use multiple cloud for various reasons. Like sometimes they want this particular data to go in the cloud, not just because they, the two reasons, right? They want to make sure they're not tied to a single platform, right? Mm-hmm. When we allow being vendor agnostic.
What
right?
about replicating that archive? Do you support that option as well?
So our S3 to S3 kind of replication, that's coming, and we'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
Right?
Do you have any study that shows the savings from the traditional infrastructure to your infrastructure, enabled infrastructure? I mean, so S3 included, with all the costs that come.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know the number, Krishna, I don't know if you know the number, generally what we see the customers.
Yeah, generally we see customers saving anywhere from 40 to 70% of their costs. A good example recently actually is Northwestern University. They went public with their savings with Komprise, and they're saving $330,000 a year, which is 40% of their costs on their research data,
including the S3.
including S3,
S3
including all the costs.
And
Yeah.
Komprise cost.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention the replication. That is actually a really good use case. We do support it. As you're archiving data, you can choose to put a second copy somewhere else, and that is included. And again, there's no extra licensing charge for that. So many customers do want to archive cold data maybe to the cloud, and they'll put a second copy on tape or some cheap on-prem storage just as an extra insurance policy, and we do support that.
So another thing to highlight here architecturally, and we're coming back to it, if you guys realize there is no database involved during access, right? And that's another key differentiation as well. Like a lot of other, stubbing technologies out there, they relied on database, on access, right? And those never work. And I think everything you need to access that link is in that link, basically, right? So the link has the location to us, and we know how to access the data rather than relying on any sort of database at all, right? So that makes access completely scalable, right? With billions of files, we can archive and we can support them with no relying on a central bottleneck at all. Another thing, and Mike covered, we are not in the hot data path. I think that was a big thing. Just want to re-highlight that they access the data sitting on the flash storage. Users are accessing the hot data. They don't even feel any difference. Komprise is not in the picture at all. Right? It's only when they access the cold data, Komprise is archived, then we come into the play. And that's a big differentiation as well, right? A lot of other products out there, they come in the hot data path. Say the gateway products, they come in the first. You have to go through them to access your flash storage. That doesn't make any sense.
And metadata also.
And metadata as well, right? So we are not in the path of the hot metadata as well. It's a good point.
What about your support model and your lifecycle management for your products? Have you had, what's the story about that?
So we have full support all the enterprise support model. Like we have 24/7. We have support teams kind of around the country to kind of support our customers here, EMEA, everywhere else. We have customers all across the world as well. So we have a support model built for that. And what do you mean by lifecycle management?
This is the components. How do they get updated?
Oh.
Do they need to be updated? Have they major updates?
If it's a cloud product, right? It's a really we do really engage with customers to upgrade, but it's a simple upgrade. Right? We just push the upgrade, and all the virtual machines they get upgraded automatically, and no downtime or anything like that for the customers because it's a grid model. So upgrade is a very seamless for the customers. Same thing for on-prem. They push a button, and they download the upgrade package, apply, and it just rolls out to all
the people who are like in air-gapped environments or dark sites, how do they get upgrades?
So they get the upgrade package. They can download the upgrade package. They push it to the director, and there's only one place they push the upgrade, and upgrades gets pushed to all the observers automatically.
You also have compatibility with Microsoft DFS?
Yeah, we work with Microsoft DFS. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think there was a question, what kind of targets we support. So I think you mentioned most of the cloud. We support AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, Wasabi Cloud, right? So all those 5 as a public cloud object stores. For private clouds, storage grid, ECS, Scality, Cloudian. We're missing some, but I think IBM costs, yeah. So all of those as well we support.
Do you see more private object stores or?
We're seeing mix. I think we're seeing both actually. I think I don't know, the ratio is probably around 50-50, I would say. We're seeing a lot of customers doing public cloud and a lot of customers for specific industries which they don't want to move data to the cloud, they're building the private cloud.
What's a typical customer size for you guys? I mean, storage?
It starts petabytes. I think that's what we generally see.
So
and I think they like Northwestern is a great example. They started with, 1 or 2 petabytes, but then they bought more basically after that as well, right? So yeah, so I don't know, Krishna, if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, most of our customers are multi-petabyte just because data is growing so fast. As long as a customer has a few hundred terabytes, we can engage with them. The software is pretty lightweight, but generally our customers are, 5s to 10s of petabytes.
You mentioned you can contain files based on ACLs. Can you modify the ACLs en masse?
No, we don't change anything.
You just gate it. You just because you said you can modify certain files and then you can make a user no longer access it.
No, we don't block. We only honor
the
access. So if you had access to the source file, if you archive the data, the same access applies, basically.
And you don't allow modification of the ACLs?
Well, yeah, if they modify it, they can modify it using standard Windows Explorer. So all this is exposed.
No, the product itself.
The product is not modifying ACLs as it's moving, right? It's only persisting the ACLs that you have.
Transferring it.
It's transferring them, that's it, yeah.
Do you have any, I'm sorry. Do you have any ISP or MSCP interested in reselling or using your product as a hook to collect data for them? I mean, to sell storage in the backend.
Yes, especially in Europe, we're seeing a lot of interest from service providers, and we do have a few service providers using Komprise right now. Yeah.
Is it a special licensing? Is it a white labeled kind of offering?
It's not. It is a different licensing. Basically, we allow them to pay as they grow. So there's a certain minimum commit, and then as they grow their business, they can pay. So we do have a different licensing for them. It's still it still shows it's powered by Komprise.
Okay.
But they leverage it. And to your point, the reason they want it is they offer a managed service to their customer, and they use Komprise to do the analytics and the data mobility, and then they offer all the cloud storage and backup services.
Yeah, it's an enabler for them, so they don't have to make a lot of money on top of your solution because they are making money with all the rest. Interesting.
That's where the APIs are very useful also, because they can tie it into whatever management framework they have.